It's incredible how many great horror movies have come out in the past 5 years. Filmmakers are really taking the term elevated horror to heart, crafting experiences that attempt to do more than just frighten audiences. Many of these flicks are critically acclaimed as well, and deservedly so. There are so many new and interesting things directors and screenwriters are showcasing with their projects, and a lot of them are utter works of genius. Unfortunately, just because a feature is critically acclaimed doesn't mean it'll be a success at the box office. Maybe it was because of the pandemic, maybe it was because of a lack of marketing, or maybe there just wasn't enough word of mouth, but several horror offerings of the past 5 years have failed to turn in a profit despite being amazingly written and directed. Thankfully, great horror pictures often find themselves becoming cult classics after their digital releases, but these still didn't deserve to be box office bombs. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 10 awesome recent horror movies that didn't deserve to bomb. Number 10, Assassination Nation. Grossing only $2.8 million against a $7 million budget, Assassination Nation didn't get its proper due. All about how a town descends into chaos after a hacker leaks secrets about many of its residents, the feature was timely and topical, the kind of horror that was scary because of how much it tapped into current societal fears and problems. Assassination Nation didn't hold back with its direction. It was abrasive, confrontational, and in-your-face about its themes, but it was also stylish, energetic, and a wild ride from start to finish. The filmmakers were confident in what they were making, and that confidence showed, marking the offering as one that really wanted to stick with you. Perhaps this berserk nature is why it didn't do too well at the box office. And yes, it's understandable why people would be turned off by the picture from the trailers alone. It's definitely one of the more unique horror pictures out there, what with it being part slasher and part socio-political commentary. However, for anyone who's got the stomach for it, Assassination Nation is a rewarding experience, one you won't soon forget. Number 9, Mum and Dad. Despite starring Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair, this horror comedy grossed only $165,962 against a budget of $4 million, and hasn't really found an audience with digital release either. It's a damn shame because Mum and Dad is a delightfully dark and funny offering with a premise perfect for a pitch-black comedy. In a suburb, parents all around suddenly feel the impulsive need to murder their own offspring, and the movie follows a teenage girl and her little brother trying to survive this random mass hysteria of unknown origins. You already know that with such a premise, Nicolas Cage is going to be giving it his all with his performance, and give it his all he does. This is one of Cage's most enjoyable, over-the-top performances to date. Not just that, but Mum and Dad absolutely revels in its ridiculous nature, and is easily one of the most fun horror experiences of the past 10 years. Horror comedy is a hard genre to pull off since the two are such opposing natures, but when they do, they can be one of the most entertaining experiences brought by cinema. Number 8, Dr. Sleep. Did The Shining really need a sequel? Well, the quick answer would probably be no, but Dr. Sleep proves that answer deserves a second thought. Based on the novel by Stephen King, Dr. Sleep offers a thrilling and unnerving experience that really only the King can bring us, and is even better than It Chapter 2, which had just come out the same year. Unfortunately, it only grossed $72.3 million against a $45 to $55 million budget, and was considered a disappointment by the studio, especially since the It duology had performed so well at the box office. As both writer and director, Mike Flanagan had the near impossible task of both following up the beloved Stanley Kubrick classic as well as adapting one of Stephen King's most popular modern novels. The result, however, is terrific. Filled with spine-tingling chills and an esteemed lead performance from Ewan McGregor, Dr. Sleep marks itself as one of the most notable Stephen King adaptations to date, one that should definitely be watched by fans of the author as well as horror fans in general. Sequels are a dime a dozen with horror, but this sequel is one of the best sequels in the genre. Number 7, Overlord. With only a gross of $41 million against a budget of $38 million, Overlord deserved a much bigger performance at the box office. It's an absolute gift to zombie fans as it commits to its gory fun, certain to please anyone looking for enthralling suspense and seriously entertaining zombie horror. The best part is all the build-up leading to the climax. This motion picture knows how to build excitement throughout its first and second acts, and once the third act breaks out, it's an absolute blast for audiences. It really knew how to stick the landing. Still, while its box office performance may have been a disappointment, Overlord seems destined to become a cult classic. That title gets thrown around a lot with horror films, but Overlord is one that truly deserves it. Give it 5 more years and this is sure to have a large number of diehards due to how satisfying of an experience it is for gore and zombie lovers. The action is great, the gore looks terrific, and the entire thing will certainly leave you feeling well pleased and satiated. Number 6. Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil only grossed $287,645 against a €2.8 million budget, mainly because it never got a big release even if it deserved one. This is a story about one family who spends the weekend with another family that they met on vacation months prior. But what was supposed to be a fun and relaxing weekend slowly starts to unravel as the family they met starts to seem more and more sinister. Just the synopsis alone is enough to get any horror fan intrigued. And trust us when we say Speak No Evil delivers greatly on that intrigue. The feature is a delightfully dark and vicious treat. It's the best kind of horror, the kind with razor-sharp teeth. Speak No Evil perfectly captures the feeling of a nightmare slowly coming to life and being unable to stop it. How well do you really know people, and how deep can you really trust anyone? This will leave you uncomfortable, anxious, and on the edge of your seats, as its slow burn nature allows the story to unfold in a compelling and can't look away kind of way. Number 5. Color Out of Space. Based on the short story of the same name by H.P. Lovecraft, Color Out of Space unfortunately only grossed $1 million against a budget of $6 to $12 million. A confusing profit considering its source material is Lovecraft and its main star is Nicolas Cage. Nevertheless, Color Out of Space is an absolute must-watch for fans of Lovecraftian horror. It's also a fantastic return for director Richard Stanley, who hasn't directed a feature since 1992's Dust Devil. Thankfully, this effort shows he hasn't lost his touch despite being out of the game for so long. Following the story of a family whose whole world changes when a meteorite crashes into their front yard and melts into the earth, Color Out of Space is stylish, strange, and weird in all the best ways. It's an odd hallucinogenic experience filled with energy and ambition. It's also gorgeously shot and a triumphant success in terms of visuals. Adapting Lovecraft is a considerably hard task given how iconic the author is, but Color Out of Space is an amazing adaptation that really captures the unique horror and dread evoked by the author in his works. Number 4. Werewolves Within. The greatest film adaptation of a video game is also one you probably have never heard of. Based on the game of the same name, Werewolves Within had a budget of $6.5 million and only made $937,490, but is gaining a cult following amongst horror fans, especially lovers of horror comedies. Well deserved too. Werewolves Within is an absolute gem, one that's a blast to watch and warrants multiple rewatches simply because of how much fun it is. Centering around a group of people who get trapped in a snowstorm and start to suspect one of them is a werewolf, Werewolves Within probably has a familiar premise to you if you've ever spent a game night playing werewolf or mafia. It's an outlandish idea to try and turn this gameplay into a cinematic experience, but somehow Werewolves Within makes it work, and is an unforgettable rollercoaster of a ride. If you love Clue, you'll love this one too. Both work really well as comedy whodunits, mainly because of how much they take their premise and run with it. Number 3. The Night House. Making only $15.5 million when Searchlight Pictures paid $12 million to acquire this out of Sundance, The Night House follows the story of a widow who, after the recent death of her husband, discovers a dark secret about the house her husband built. Who doesn't love a horror flick filled with secrets? The Night House isn't just boasting secrets though, it also boasts an unsettling atmosphere, gripping tension, intelligent directing and writing, and a mesmerizing lead performance from Rebecca Hall. There truly is a lot here to love, so much so that we can easily see this growing more and more of a cult following as the years go by. The Night House truly is a fantastic flick, one that's both emotionally resonant and consistently frightening. Horror movies taking place inside a house are a dime per 2 dozen, but somehow, the filmmakers take a familiar premise and setting and create an outstanding experience that marks itself as a standout from the crowded haunted house genre. A slow burn but never boring, The Night House is an immersive experience that but also doubles as a convincing argument for letting Rebecca Hall star in more horror offerings. Number 2. Annihilation. By all means, Annihilation should have been a bigger hit. It's based on a popular sci-fi novel by Jeff Vandermeer, it stars Natalie Portman, and it received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics. Sadly, the movie only made $43.1 million against a budget of $40 to $55 million, a fact even more head-scratching when you watch the flick itself. Annihilation is a wonder of an experience, with gorgeous visuals and genuine thrills all rolled together with engrossing explorations of heavy themes such as depression and grief. The story follows a biologist who joins a mission inside Area X, a mysterious phenomenon expanding across the American coastline. Natalie Portman gives an esteemed lead performance here and is thankfully part of a cast that gives it their all as well. The entire thing feels like a breath of fresh air for both the horror and sci-fi genre, and is a must-watch if you're a fan of either. Alex Garland has proven over and over again how talented of a director and screenwriter he is, and Annihilation earns its place in his ever-growing, constantly great filmography. Number 1. Mandy. It only makes sense to end this list with yet another entry starring Nicolas Cage. Mandy made $1.7 million against a budget of $6 million, but it completely deserved more. It's 2 hours of glorious horror insanity, gleefully brought to life by an eccentric performance from Cage himself. Gorgeously shot, this deserved to be seen on the big screen, which is why it's a shame that only so few did decide to watch it during its theatrical run. Mandy is not a movie that has a straightforward plot or even one that makes sense half of the time, and that's what makes it so special. It's so wholly original, it's nearly impossible to name another film quite like it. A bunch of words come to mind when thinking of how to describe this: mesmerizing, unique, violent, hypnotic, dazzling, frightening, and above all, unforgettable. It's the best kind of weird, the kind you can't look away from. If you're in the mood for a horror experience that'll blow your mind and stick with you long after you finish watching, Mandy is no doubt the one for you. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed any, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.